that said they wanted some advice on how to actually read our auditing standards. So what I have here is an auditing handbook from 2011. Obviously you should be using the most current one, but the one I've got to hand is 2011. And the handbook has a really handy index. Alright, so for students, I don't expect students to remember a whole lot of the numbering. I know, for example, that ASA 315 is about identifying risks and understanding the client. I know that 500 is about audit evidence. But if you ever get stuck, make sure you come here to the contents. And it's arranged in a couple of different sections. Introduction, the responsibilities of the auditor. So this includes things like fraud, how to document the audit, considering the law. Planning is everything in the 300s. Audit evidence is everything in the 500 range. And then audit opinions is everything in the 700 range. So I'm going to use ASA 240 as an example. So ASA 240 is the standard on fraud. Let me find the right page here. Alright, now we know under the Corporations Act that our auditing standards are legally enforceable. So it's really important that we understand how to read an auditing standard. So we go into ASA 240, okay? You'll see information that has the contents, what's contained within the standard itself, and then also importantly, we have information about the auditor's responsibilities. So because our auditing standards are legally enforceable, every single numbered paragraph that you see here is legally enforceable. So the auditors must do the things contained within these paragraphs. So for example, in paragraph 4, the primary responsibility for the prevention and detection of fraud remains with those charged with governance, that is of the entity, and that's management. But it is an auditor's responsibility to consider the possibility of fraud. So you'll see that there's requirements about being professionally skeptical, to discuss the idea of fraud amongst the engagement team, so it's not something that one audit person does alone. But what's important after we read all the requirements, so these are all the things that the auditor must do to meet the Corporations Act. You'll see here at the back, there's application and other explanatory material. What's really important to note is that each of these paragraphs is numbered or prefaced with an A. So that A means application and other explanatory material. These sections are not legally enforceable. So if you are answering a question that asks you to provide supporting evidence from your auditing standards, do not use one of these A paragraphs as support for what you're doing, because it's not legally enforceable. So whenever you provide a reference, it should be legally enforceable paragraphs only, the plain numbered paragraphs only. But this explanatory material usually gives more detailed information on how the auditor should enact their legal responsibilities in the previous paragraph. So please make sure that you always read carefully the explanatory and application paragraphs, because they'll give you a lot more detail than the initial paragraph. So for example, professional skepticism, it says in the legally enforceable section that the auditor must be professionally skeptical. Here in these explanatory paragraphs, it discusses about what it means to have professional skepticism. So those are really important. So make sure you read, when you're looking at your auditing standards, not just the numbered paragraphs, but also our explanatory material as well.